are the New York Knicks. I'm back in the New York. Well, it's the Knicks. New York. We are the New York Knicks. New York. For this new season we're about to enter, the Knicks taking no shorts just like winter.
New York, New York.
New York be about the Knicks, huh?
But the best thing about New York City is
K-N-I-C-K-S.
Everybody say go New York, go New York, go!
Go New York, go New York, go!
Everybody, welcome to the New York Knicks podcast, episode 548, part of Dash Radio, where the show is also brought to you by Ticket Club. You can go to our website, the NewYorkKnicksPodcast.com/Ticket Club, and use code NYKP for $20 off a premier membership. How you doing, Mark?
Good. How are you doing?
I am doing good. I would have been doing really, really good if we recorded this Sunday, but I'm still doing good.
Okay, because I want to stop recording shows. Right. I don't know if you've noticed the theme. I'm not saying I want to end the podcast. I just want to stop recording shows because the theme right now is the day before we record a show, the Knicks lose. They win every other game just the day before we record.
Yeah. So we almost did a show when they had a nice 3-0 week. Couldn't do Sunday, and now we get to talk about a not good loss.
Right. So basically, the Knicks since the last show, they beat the Sixers. They beat the Bulls. They beat the Pelicans. And they lost last night to the Raptors. They are 3-1, which in other words, the week was a complete and utter disgrace, a disaster, if you would. Based on just reading Twitter, Knicks like Reddit's, comment section, and posting and toasting, all different media, Knicks platforms. The sky is falling. The Knicks are not 5-2; they're 2-5.
So
That's how it is.
Here's my positive take on this.
You have a positive take on a 3-1 week? I can't even see how you would. Come on.
I mean, I went on Twitter. People need a little bit of a positive opener to this episode.
I don't know how you have a positive opener a 3-1 week. A 3-1 week, like how do you defend that?
And they beat two playoff teams
this week.
Yeah, Philly and Chicago are playoff bound. So like, it's not like it was a 3-1 week and they played Cleveland, Detroit, Orlando.
But Jay, they were eliminated last night from the playoffs against the Raptors. That one loss, it's like over.
So I thought they were going to win by 30. That first quarter was ridiculous. We even got Mike Breen to Bing Bong, which was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So
the Bing Bong thing, I think everyone can appreciate that. It's like it's fun that they have like a new thing that's happened. And like even the players, I think one of the players retweeted Bing Bong.
The most surprising thing about Bing Bong is that I didn't have to explain it to you.
I had to look it up.
I'm sure you did.
I knew it was from the first game, the victory celebration. I was pretty sure, but I still had to look it up.
Okay. So,
yeah, I had to look everything up. I'm an idiot.
They just seem, the Knicks are very good this year, but they seem to get a little full of themselves when they get a big lead against a bad team and take their foot off the gas. And
in defense of the team, is there a chance that a team that changed 2 of their 5 starters, 40% of their starters, and which also amounted to major minutes for the game, is having just figuring out how to gel and figuring out how to all play together?
It's part that, and Toronto was hustling. I mean, the Knicks couldn't touch the ball without Toronto poking the ball out, and
we're going right to the loss, aren't we?
I want to get it out of the way so we can focus on all the wins. I mean, yeah, they hustled. They played really, really hard, and that's usually what the Knicks have been doing.
The Knicks hit 9 3-pointers in the first quarter. It was goddamn ridiculous. It looked like I felt like the last couple of games, the games ended up closer than the Knicks wanted to blow the other team out and just didn't know how to step on their throat, basically. Yeah. And the games just ended up being closer. And I feel like the Knicks, they hit a ton of threes in the first quarter. Julius Randle had 18 points in the first quarter. And they were like, oh, this should be an easy game. And then they just kind of fell apart. They weren't basically there for the counterpunch.
Right, yeah. But the good news is this is this is a fixable issue. This isn't like, they're getting blown out by 20. They just look overmatched. This is more, I think, more of a mental issue, which is, I think, easily fixable. So I think they're going to be fine.
I think they're going to be fine too. I mean, the things in my mind. So you mentioned the defense. I thought Toronto stepped up their defense majorly in
Second
probably
quarter,
in the second half.
Yeah.
Second quarter, really third quarter more than anything. They really started playing great defense, like crowding guys. Like there were way too many turnovers, way too many Fournier kept getting having trouble when they were playing tight on him. The Knicks also, by the way, you noticed have some trouble with the zone defense, right?
Yeah. Also, I feel like they didn't match that defensive intensity until the fourth quarter, and by then you're trying to make up a 12-point deficit.
Right. I also felt to Toronto's credit, I know people said the Knicks played poor defense, but I thought Toronto also was just making shots. Just sometimes you have to just they were just good shot making. And there were a lot of open shots, but also a lot of shots where the Knicks contested and Toronto just hit the shot anyway.
Yeah, sometimes even the best defense sometimes is not good enough for the best offense.
OG Anunoby played awesome. Trent hit some ridiculous shots. I just felt I just felt there was a barrage of Toronto, and overall Toronto only shot 33% from three, and the Knicks actually made more threes than Toronto. But I felt the Knicks had most of their threes in the first quarter. I felt after that, Toronto just went on a spree of we can't miss. And then they got all the offensive rebound. They got all these second chance opportunities.
Yeah.
There was a lot wrong with the game.
Yeah. Brooklyn Adrian says, once they had the lead, the ISO Randall, and that kills us. That results in turnovers and horrible shot selection. Randall gave us the lead, but let them come back. They need to keep moving the ball. Too much firepower to just ISO.
Okay, so let's just start right here with Randall. I'm forgetting what is up. I think a big question everywhere in Knicks world right now is, what's the deal with Randall? What do you think? Why do you think first of all, what do you think of Randall's play so far?
It's been okay. It's been very inconsistent, I would say.
Okay.
And
what do you,
the thing is, you look at some of the games, you're like, oh, this guy isn't playing good at all. But then you look, he's averaging 21, 11, and 6.
okay, do you have all the stats up in front of you?
Just Randall's.
Okay, I was going to ask you. I was going to see close other stats if you have them in front of you. I want to play a game with you later.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you what you think his stats are. Did you look just now? What do you think he's shooting is? What do you think his 3-point shooting percentage is?
Somebody posted on Twitter, so I saw it. It's 37%, right?
Yeah, it's fine. He shot 40% last year. It's also beginning of the season, and things we are acting like he's playing horribly when, as you just said, he has about 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 21 points a game. His shooting percentage is a little bit lower than last year. His numbers aren't terrible, but you'd agree there's something off. His offense isn't quite as good as it was. His defense intensity is not quite as good. He's holding the ball a little more.
I feel like he's forcing it a little bit, and maybe he spent the last 2 years being the number 1, 2, and 3 option, and now he's on the court with at least 3 other guys that can score the ball, and he doesn't need to do it all, but I think it's a habit he's going to slowly break throughout the season.
So let's go through some of the theories of why he's not playing this well. Why? So I agree with you. So you feel part one, or maybe theory one, he's adjusting to the new guys he's playing with and trying to figure out what he needs to do and what he needs to let them do. Is that fair?
Yeah, because when you think about it, after Barrett, who was the Knicks' next scoring option? Rose, Burks, but that's guys coming off the bench.
No, obviously this year Fournier as maybe your third option / second option is a huge upgrade. Kemba's a huge upgrade. They clearly added a lot more offensive firepower.
Yeah.
Theory number 2 with Randall, hangover from the Hawks series, in the sense of he's now pushing himself extra hard because of what happened in the Hawks series, and maybe pushing it a little too hard where he's trying to force stuff. Maybe
he could be trying to prove himself and make up for the playoffs. It could be part mental as well. Yes.
Theory number 3, He just had a baby. He had his second child, and And babies, they don't sleep well. Babies can be difficult. I'm sure he's a rich man. I'm sure he has a nanny. I'm sure he has all the care he wants. But he also can be, at the same time, be involved when he's home. When the New Yorker's not on the road, he's maybe involved with his kid. Would make some sense. Maybe the new baby is causing him to get a little less sleep.
Very possible. Very possible.
And you don't know, like, I have kids. Some kids are really great at first, good sleepers. Some kids can be insanely difficult. It can be stressful. Maybe that is wearing on him. I mean, obviously, having a kid's great, but it also could be a tiring thing that could also make him a little off.
Yeah.
Any other theories about Randall?
I think we covered the major ones. I think we'd be getting into conspiracy territory with any more.
You don't think Julius Randle is he's working with JFK Jr. To help Donald Trump with the next election? Maybe
he's been spending his evenings waiting in Dallas. I don't know.
But at a total side note, there's some conspiracy theory where JFK Jr., who's been dead for 20 years, is going to be Donald Trump's running mate. And it was supposed to be announced in Texas, and JFK Jr. was going to appear from the dead apparently today. But if you believe QAnon, it may have happened. Who knows? Anyway.
Brooklyn Adrian writes, would you trade a whole season for RJ to become an all-star this year, meaning no playoffs?
So you know what I was thinking about this team?
Mm-hmm.
So I know I want to go to the playoffs.
I'd rather
I also
the playoffs
feel like
too.
I also feel like I know he said like either or, but if RJ is going to play like an all-star, we're going to the playoffs. There's no question in my mind. Like the team would have to really, everything else would have to be a complete disaster for RJ to get all-star level and the team does not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd rather him play at an all-star level, get snubbed, but make the playoffs.
So the one thing I was thinking about this team, because they have a little more pressure this year. No one's saying the Knicks are championship or bust, but they have some pressure, like because they performed well last year.
You can't go from fourth seed to like the play-in game. No.
Right. So because of that, I feel like you have a little less room to experiment. In some ways, not that I'm not tanking for another pick or anything, but I would argue it would be nice if Knicks had a little less pressure this year, and so they can do a little more experimenting. Like you can experiment right now. One thing that annoys me a little bit is Toppin. Toppin had 2 games this year that looked awesome, and then he's trying to really find his way. I feel like the Knicks could run more plays for Toppin. They could run more plays for Mitchell Robinson. They could maybe play McBride and Grimes a little bit. They could do a little more experimenting if they didn't have the pressure to win.
Yeah, you're not saying Toppin at the 5, are you? Because they have Robinson, Noel, and Gibson, and Sims.
Do we have Noel? Because I haven't seen him yet.
He'll be back this week. He'll be back.
Okay, and Sims, by the way, I like Sims. I'd rather give any minute Sims has to Toppin at the 5. I honestly I don't think Sims at this point adds a ton to an NBA rotation. I think he will in the future. He's someone to develop. He should be in Westchester when Westchester starts. But I'd rather give that dynamic to small. Like last night when they played Sims, I was just like, why don't you just give those minutes to Toppin? It's not like Toronto has to. Like at least the Pelicans had Valanciunas. You didn't really want Toppin going against Valanciunas. But like this game, Toronto's bigs aren't that big. You could have easily just given that to you could have given Toppin more run at the 5.
Yeah.
So is that crazy? I think Toppin's defense hasn't been that bad so far.
No, it's not been that bad. It's definitely situational, but yeah, when you play a small team like that, it makes sense, especially since Gibson tweaked his ankle. So
exactly,
the minutes were there.
Yeah, I also just think it's something. I want to see Toppin get more minutes. Right now, he's averaging 16 minutes a game. I feel like Tibbs has had a very quick hook with Toppin this year. And I wish it was a little bit wasn't quite as quick of a hook.
It's tough. I mean, Randall only sits 15 minutes a game, and they got a bunch of centers. It's tough.
So Randall's averaging 37 minutes a game. What if you just cut maybe give him an extra minute or 2 here? Maybe Randall would play a little better if you give him a couple less minutes. Toppin gives you a different look. I think Toppin also you have to run plays for, and the Knicks aren't always good about looking for him and running plays for him.
They got a lot of options. They forgot to put Fournier in the entire fourth quarter yesterday. They have a lot of
obviously,
options.
They have a lot of options, and obviously they didn't forget as much as Tibbs. I think Tibbs likes Fournier. Fournier's defense hasn't been so good, so he liked what Emmanuel quickly was doing. A lot of people were killing Tibbs over that move, and I think he had left Burks in a little long a couple games ago. I think we have to also say Tibbs can experiment with these lineups and see what he feels like. Let's not question every move Tibbs makes.
I'm only questioning it because he's on my fantasy team.
Anyway, the bench has been giving us not such great effort.
Like I did a 1-day fantasy league yesterday, and I had Kemba, and he got 3 layups in the final minute in garbage time, and I was happy with that, and I was like, you should do that for Fournier too.
How many assists should be? Speaking of point guards, how many assists should you be getting per 48 minutes for your point guards?
6 to 7.
I would argue probably 8 or 9, really. The full 48 minutes. I want to see a few more assists from Rose and Kemba. Kemba are averaging about 6 combined.
I mean, Kemba has a career average of 6. He's averaging 3 this season.
Yeah, he's averaging 3, but he's playing also a lot reduced minutes.
Yeah, but not half the minutes.
Kemba and Rose, and partly Randall's a little more playmaking. I want to see more playmaking out of Kemba. Rose hasn't been that good either. I know with he's shooting well from 3, but Rose really hasn't been that good so far.
No, the thing is, the Knicks are 5-2, and there's a lot of room for improvement. You have a bunch of players. Burks, Quickly, and Rose have all been very underwhelming. Randall's been up and down, and they're still 5-2. So I feel like they could be a lot. Barrett's been awesome. Barrett's taken the leap we were hoping he would take. But other than Barrett, he's really the only one who's playing above our expectations right now.
Okay. Also, in fairness for Barrett, just how you look at it, the Knicks have played 7 games, right? The first couple games, Barrett wasn't all that great. He was kind of mediocre the first couple games.
Right. Yeah.
He's been stupendous the last 2 games, but that's really I love what Barrett's been doing the last 2 games, but let's not act like he's been doing this for 7 straight games.
Yeah, no, that's true. But didn't he do that
defense,
last season? The first 4 or 5 games he was, and then the rest of the season he was fine. It was.
Yeah, no, he was.
People like to freak out over the smallest of sample sizes.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
AJ,
I dropped Patty Mills based on a very small sample size.
See if you can I'm just curious. See if you can guess the Knicks' top 3 3-point shooters in terms of percentage. Yeah.
I'm gonna
and take a guess what the percentages are also.
Okay. I'm gonna guess Barrett.
Barrett's number 1. What's he shooting?
I'm gonna say Barrett's number 2.
Okay, Barrett's number 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's number 1?
41%.
Okay.
You're not gonna. Okay.
I'll tell you after. Just
okay. Number 1 is Kemba. I'm gonna say 42%, and number 3 is who else we got? I'm gonna say Rose at 40%.
Okay, so you said Kemba 42, Barrett 41, and Rose 40%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So almost. So Kemba is number 1 at 56%.
Okay, that's good. That's good, right?
Yeah. Rose is number 2 at 50%, and actually Fournier is number 3 at 43%. Barrett's at 0.429 and Fournier's at 0.431.
That's absurd.
Yeah, but wait. Fournier's shooting over 8 threes a game at 43%.
Isn't league average 36, 37?
Yeah, I mean, also, the crazy thing is also on 2-pointers, what's a good 2-point shooting percentage?
I think it depends on the position, but let's say
yes, center. Say a non-center. What are you looking for them?
47, 48?
You would say basically, ideally they shoot 50% from 2, right?
Yeah.
Ideally. Do you know what that equivalent is in 3-point shooting?
Isn't that like
ever
you got
thought-
to take off a third, right? So isn't that like
Yeah. So basically,
30?
it's a third. It's a third. It's a third, basically.
Like 30,
Basically,
32?
hitting 33% of your threes is the equivalent of hitting 50% of your twos. I mean, that's why threes have taken off, basically.
Yeah.
That's simple math.
Yeah.
Because everyone, if you shoot above 33%, it's better than shooting 50% from two.
Right.
But no, and it's crazy. It's the shooting percentages the Knicks have currently are crazy. That stuff's going to come back down to earth. But this team has a lot of goddamn shooting. So how do we fix all the problems? What are the fixes here?
I mean, I think there's not too many other than I would say there's three things. All right. So you have ball movement.
Yes. So more movement, more action out of the point guards.
More action from the point guards, more movement from everybody, because there's a lot of times where a guy has the ball and he looks like he wants to pass, but everyone else is kind of just standing there. So like more movement everywhere on the court.
Okay. Yes.
That would lead to more passes, more cuts, more open layups or open threes. Number two, defense, which has been really good in spurts, but it seems like they ease up and let teams back into the game or, aren't able to pull away because of it. So keeping that defensive intensity.
Okay.
And
that would be huge. Yeah.
And I think the third is just mental. Like, don't
Was that
assume.
the second one? Wasn't that the second one? Defensive intensity, mental.
No, that's more effort, I think.
Okay.
I think mental is more like, I feel like they go into games now just assuming they're going to win, and they get cocky. And as soon as they get up like 10, 12 points, they're like, oh, yeah, we're so much better. And then, it leads to less defensive intensity. But I think it also leads to like, let's take turns ISOing and playing hero ball. And like, the whole thing kind of unravels. Like they have a game plan. And I feel like once they get cocky, it unravels.
Okay, so while it would be cool to be the 73-win Warriors, would it be in some way say like a game like last night is a good check, basically? Basically like, hey, we're not this good. Like losing sometimes losing these games might benefit in the long run.
It might. I feel like they took the Orlando game to heart, and then they beat a very good Sixers and Chicago team. Like, maybe now they come back. They have a better competition this week. Maybe what would have been a 2-2 week is a 3-1 week now.
So I feel like also the progress the Knicks have been making is if you go back at some point, they were not this season, but previous. You first start off basically playing hard enough to make fake comebacks. And the Knicks have been making fake comebacks for a decade, right?
Yeah.
But at some point, like the comebacks seem a little more legit, and you get a couple wins. Then you move on to playing a little tighter and having more of these close games come out on top, and you start beating the bad teams. And you play closer with the good teams, but you lose to them. The Knicks are making the next step where now they should always beat the bad teams. The teams that are around there, like the middle of the pack teams, the Knicks generally, when they play them, they should be up most of the game and only lose when that team comes back.
Yeah.
They fall for the comebacks, but the Knicks are kind of taking that next step, which is a hard step to make. Basically, be the team where like we're no longer winning games because we're out because it's unexpected. It's now expected, and we have to live up to the expectations.
Yeah, I mean that Philly game, they completely took Embiid out of the game. He looked frustrated. He had almost a career low for he had got a couple buckets near the end, but like he couldn't do anything all game, and he looked really upset.
That was a huge game.
That was.
So you want to play around with some stats here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So first stat I want to ask you is, where do you think the Knicks finished last season in pace of play?
Pace of play. So
of the 30 teams, where do you think they finished? You don't have to guess the number. I'll tell you the number.
Well, let's see. They had Alfred running the point. Almost. I'm gonna say it was bad. I'm gonna say like 26th.
The Knicks were 30th in pace of play last season.
Okay.
At 98.2. I guess that's shots per 100.
Okay.
Where do you think? I guess they can't be lower than last season. But where do you think they are this season? Where so now they've got Kemba, they've got Fournier, more athletic team. Where are they in pace of play?
I'm going to say top half, 12.
20, tied for 27th.
Oh, okay.
And actually,
There's a
worse,
lot of ISO still. Yeah.
their pace of play is actually slower than last season when they were worse in the NBA.
Wow. Okay.
93.6.
So there's room for improvement.
There is room for improvement on pace of play. I'm not sure what the deal there is, but there is a lot of room for improvement.
You know who
there.
plays with a lot of pace? Obi.
Okay.
Somebody grabs a
Yes.
rebound, and that guy is under the opposing basket like 2 seconds later.
That is absolutely true. So another interesting one, I thought. This one I thought pretty interesting. So a big thing last year people made out was the Knicks. What were the Knicks on defense? What was one of the things the Knicks were really good at?
They were really good at defending the 3-point shot.
Yes, that's where I'm going, Jay.
Okay.
Where did they finish in the league as opponents' field 3-point percentage? Where were the Knicks last year of the 30 teams?
It was like 3, right?
Number one. They were number
Okay.
one in the NBA last year. Do you want to guess the percentage? What the opponent's 3-point percentage? Take a stab in the dark.
32.
33.7% was the best in the NBA last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this year, so basically one of the things everyone said was, what did the people say about this?
They said that it was because a lot of the teams were shooting, they were missing shots even if they weren't contested.
Right. And this would be something, but the Knicks did it for 72 games. So there's got to be something there, right? Their strategy?
Yeah, it's too big of a coincidence for teams to shoot below average for 72 straight games. Like they had to have been doing something.
Okay. So of the 30 teams, it's only 7 games. Where are the Knicks now?
18.
You think they've been allowing a lot of threes?
I think they have, yeah.
Okay. They're 13.
Okay, I was close.
What percentage do you think they're allowing now?
36.5.
33.7, the same percentage as last season.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So last season, what led the NBA is now 13.
I'm guessing some rocky starts to the season.
Yeah, I mean, this will all even out basically. Currently, the Jazz are allowing 24.9% from 3. I don't think the Jazz have some amazing 3-point defense they figured out that's 10% better than anyone else did in the NBA last year. I think guys are just missing against the Jazz.
Yeah, it's the thing. With 7 games, one team misses a bunch of shots, it brings your percentage down like 10%. So,
Yeah. I think the Knicks' general strategy last year was to some guys they tried to cover, some guys they just said, let him shoot. And also they would try to jump out on guys, but they basically kind of said, if you as long as you try to cover certain guys, the team is usually going to miss more shots than they take.
yeah.
Or obviously miss more shots, but the percentages aren't. Tibbs had a methodology to this. It wasn't just leave guys open and pray.
I mean, it's better than the last 10 years where it seemed like everybody hit 3-point shots against them.
Yes, it was definitely better than that.
It was, I mean, under Fizdale, it seemed like they thought the 3-point line was the out of bounds line and they weren't allowed to pass it.
Yeah, it did look like that. Where do you think the Knicks were last year in assists?
I'm gonna say pretty
And this is
low.
on offense. This is offense basically, not the defense.
Yeah. I mean, I think Randall led the team.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty big drop off from him. I'm gonna say they were 22 last year.
The Knicks were 27th in assists last year.
Okay. Yeah.
That's pretty goddamn awful, right?
It's really bad. Yeah, it's really bad.
Okay. Under over this year. Are they higher or lower?
They are higher.
Where are they?
I think they're 10th.
15th
Okay.
at 17.1. They are actually, they're actually only averaging one more assist a game than they did last season.
Interesting.
That's not good.
They should be getting 20.
Yeah. Though actually, if you have 20 this year, do you know where you'd be ranked?
1.
Yes, Golden State, the only team with 20.
They should do it. They should do it.
They should do it though. They should get it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Where else are they struggling? Where else would you want to hear about?
How are they doing on rebounds?
Rebounds. How about you want to hear about their opponents rebounding?
Sure.
Your opponent's offensive rebounding. So I'm looking at let me look at last year first. Where do you think the Knicks were opponents' offensive rebounding last year?
17th.
They were 10th. So
Okay.
they were pretty good at that.
Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty good, like a top third.
Mhm.
Where do you think they are this season?
I think they are around the same, 10th.
19th.
Oh, bad.
No, not good. Not good.
Maybe Noel will help that.
You know what's interesting? It's about the same number.
Yeah, all these numbers are thrown way off.
Yeah. Okay. So another one I thought was interesting. Let me find it real quick. Opponents' points per game. Where did the Knicks last year rank in opponents' points per game?
They were 8th.
8th. So you think they were the 8th best team as far as Knicks last year? Their defense was stellar. They were number 1 in the NBA in points allowed at 104 points a game.
Okay. All right.
So where are they this season?
Mm,
Last year they were number 1.
mm-hmm.
Where are they this season?
4.
You think 4?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And do you think it's higher or lower than last year's 104?
I think it's lower.
Really? Because did you watch the Celtics game when there was like 175 million to 174 million?
Good point.
The Knicks are 20th
20th.
at 110.
Yeah, it's because of that game. Yeah.
A little inflated, obviously.
Yeah.
Overall, the Knicks defense does not look as good so far. Yeah, I mean, it's really the big takeaway here.
I mean, it's to be expected. I mean, they had a downgrade in defense for both of their backcourt players, but offense should be way up.
Opponents' field goal percentage.
Mm,
Where do you think it was last year?
I think it was 5th.
First, best in the NBA.
Okay.
Where's it this year?
18th.
5th.
These stats make no sense. How are they like?
You know what doesn't? You know what makes the least amount of sense?
Mm.
Last year, the Knicks were number 1 in the NBA at 44% opponents' field goal percentage.
Mhm.
It's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
This year, the Knicks are at 5th at 42%. They're actually having a lower field goal percentage against them, but they're now 5th.
We may have to revisit this like 40 games into the season and see if it makes more sense. Yeah.
The stats are all fluky because the Heat right now are allowing 39%. Maybe the Heat defense is just, oh my God, so much better than last year, or maybe they played a bunch of teams that just can't shoot.
Yeah.
I think everything's pretty skewed this year.
Bless you.
Got to do something for the show. Do you want to? Is there any offensive stats you want to look at? How are the Knicks? You want to know how the Knicks are shooting?
Sure.
Okay. So last year, 3-point percentage. How did the Knicks shoot 3-point percentage?
Didn't we just do this?
How the Knicks shooting on offense?
Last year they were good, right? Yeah, they were like top 5, 5th.
They were third in Lambay at 39%. Here's an interesting one: 3-pointers attempted. Where were the Knicks on 3-pointers attempted a game?
They were really bad, right? Like 28th.
Yeah, 27th at 33s a game. Let me ask you, Jay, where are the Knicks this season on 3-point percentage? Where do you think they are?
Well, based on the numbers you gave me earlier, I'm going to say first.
Second. They're doing better than last year. Charlotte Hornets just are beating them. The Knicks are 40% and Hornets are 41%. Knicks are almost 41%.
What do they have? One guy shooting like 0%. You named 4 guys who are shooting like 50%. Like, how are they only averaging 40?
Well, who's not shooting well from 3? Alec Burks, Emmanuel. Actually, never mind. Burks actually. What do you think Burks is shooting? Because he's been bad, right?
Yeah, like, I don't know, 33,
42%.
So is it all just quickly dragging the entire team down?
Toppin and Quickly can't shoot threes. Quickly's 21%. Toppin's 15%.
Oof.
Hey, I don't know. But I mean, 40% is still pretty darn good, basically overall.
Yeah, no, it's just funny because you have like 5 guys shooting way, way over, but the team is just barely average.
Bigger point though, where are the Knicks on 3-pointers attempted?
3rd.
They're 8th. But the bigger point here, they're shooting 43s a game. They're shooting an entire 10 more threes a game.
That's pretty crazy.
That's a pretty big adjustment.
Yeah.
Timberwolves are at 43 a game. Actually, why I love the Timberwolves are shooting 43 threes a game at a percentage of...
I think it's really bad. It's 34%.
31.6%.
Oh, that's terrible.
I mean, if you're a Knicks and you're like really good shooting, maybe we can add some more shots. You're Timberwolves. I don't know. You have Towns. Work the ball inside, jerks.
So I had a rule during the fantasy draft that I would not take any Timberwolf because every single year for like the last 10 years, I get screwed by a Timberwolf. I forgot and I picked up Beverly yesterday. And right before the game, inexplicably is out of the game with a mysterious injury. So I just dropped him. He didn't even play a game for my fantasy team because I realized like anytime I pick a Timberwolf, it's just.
I didn't even realize. I like Beverly. I didn't even realize he was on the Timberwolves.
Yeah, so can't do it. I picked up Monte Morris instead.
Anything else you want to know about the Knicks?
No, let's move on from stats.
Probably. Yeah. I thought those were some interesting stats. I mean, the stats are obviously skewed. They'll be a little more interesting. It'll be interesting to revisit this maybe at the 20-game point.
So Noel has been upgraded to questionable for tomorrow's game against the Pacers.
Okay.
Well, that's good. It's good. It's not out.
So when Noel is healthy, which will probably be very soon, we what happens?
Well, I think Gibson loses most of his minutes, but Gibson's been playing really, really well. But I think you have 2 borderline elite defensive players to play defense for 48 minutes a game now, and I think it's going to make a big difference. I really do.
I wanted to add just a couple more stats for you. You don't have to really guess, but opponents' points off turnovers. The Knicks are actually only 5th in that, so they're actually doing not a bad job. Opponents' points off of fast breaks. The Knicks are actually doing a pretty good job off of as well, and they're 2nd in. And opponents' points in the paint, the Knicks are 4th in. So while, I mean, overall, the Knicks are clearly winning games for a reason. Knicks actually, some of these stats they're looking pretty good at.
I'm actually kind of surprised because I would have thought that yesterday's game would have dragged them to like 20th. I felt like Toronto got 80 points off of turnovers and fast breaks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure all that stuff didn't help, but
that's what it felt like anyway.
Yeah, so I agree with you. Gibson is more of he is the third string center. You'll use him some, but you'd also you could play Noel and Mitch the whole time and be perfectly happy. And I'm sure Gibson is like, one of these guys will be injured like any moment now. I'll be fine.
Yeah, he's gonna get run. He might have a stretch of 10, 15 games where he gets some DNPs or plays like 5 minutes, but between the two of them, like one of them is probably going to be out like a third of the season. So
if Gibson goes 10 games with DNPs, I will be ecstatic because that will mean 10 games where Noel and Mitch were healthy and able to stay on the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be pretty awesome. What else are we looking for? So what do we think of? What do we make of RJ? What do you think of? Like, is he suddenly stepping up to being an all-star? What are we expecting?
I think he's taken another mini leap. I do. He's improved every season. I don't see why he shouldn't continue this trend. I'm not expecting the last 2 games to be what he has all season. I'm sure he's gonna. He may stink next game, but I think he's gonna have more of these good games, and it's just gonna continue like a normal upward trajectory. This is what a developing player is supposed to do.
I mean, we just never really see this, but yes, this is exactly what a developing player is supposed to do.
There's a reason the Knicks took him 3rd, and I'm glad they had the 3rd pick, because if they had the 1st pick, we would be watching Zion in a suit gain 50 pounds, not of muscle. And can you imagine the media? There's not been that much media coverage on this. If Zion was on the Knicks, it would be like diet watch, like every single day.
People, yes, it would. The media, it would be nonstop coverage of how much of a disaster this pick is. They'd be already calling him Zion Greg Oden. Like, actually, no, it would be Eddie Curry. They'd be comparing him to Eddie Curry more than anything.
Yeah.
So what I've observed from RJ's game, his early in the season, I know the season's not very long. First couple games, I felt like his finishing at the basket wasn't that great. And I was kind of a little frustrated because I was like, this part of RJ's game still kind of sucks. In the last 2 games especially, he has been goddamn awesome at getting to the rim and finishing.
Yeah.
With authority, like, I was like last night, I don't need RJ to shoot the ball 30 times, but I was like, I don't know. Maybe RJ could take the ball to the rim 30 times in this game. It might work out.
Yeah, it's nice to see players like Randall and RJ, and you're like, oh, there's this hole in his game, and then they work on it and actually improve it and fix it, rather than, oh, that's just his Achilles heel for the rest of his career, which we've had players like that in the past.
I mean, so his last 3 games really have been really great. He's getting to the rim. His shooting touch from 3. By the way, the last 2 games, he was 5 for 8 and 6 for 8. This is a guy who basically during his rookie year, people said he can't shoot. He has no 3-point shot. How can he even exist in this league?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
he looks so comfortable from 3. I'm sure he'll be inconsistent going forward. Not as consistent as we'd like, but the last 2 games have been absurd, especially. Holy crap.
So Nomad asked, based on the playoff teams, did the Knicks have the weakest defensive backcourt? Kemba and Fournier couldn't guard anyone against the Raptors.
Yeah, they do. What do you do about this?
You have a really good defensive front court. That's the only way you make up for it. I mean, it's not like Atlanta has a powerhouse defensive backcourt.
No, I mean, Trey is not a good defender. I do you give. So here's a question. Miles McBride is supposed to be a really good defender. Do you give him some run, to make up for it? But then you have to take Kemba or Rose off the floor. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, the thing is, their defense, their offense is, when their offense is cooking, it makes up for the defense. If they're off, if they're having an off night, maybe then you pull them a little earlier and put in somebody like McBride. But Kemba was hitting every shot yesterday. You can't take him out when he's doing that.
You're thinking yesterday Kemba was hitting every shot? You're thinking of a different game.
Well, maybe I was thinking
actually, no, he went 3 for 6 from 3.
But I think he was 3 for 3 in the first quarter, I think.
Yeah. And Kemba, by the way, since our last show has been like, we said last show was like, what's wrong with Kemba? And then after that, he was like, no, I can shoot. I'm pretty darn good at shooting.
Right.
I think he's become a bit of a spot up shooter. Like he doesn't do as much beyond shoot. He's been a great shooter. I want to see a little more out of Kemba.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it before. Definitely more distributing.
So what do you do about the defense? Yeah, I agree with you also with like, that's why you have centers who like really great rim protectors. And do you think Fournier, and nothing against Bullock, but do you think Fournier and Bullock are even close as overall NBA players?
No, I think Fournier is way, way better.
Yeah. I mean, however better Bullock is on defense than Fournier, he's not that much better than Fournier on defense. And the offense is like just a whole nother level player.
Right. They're shooting similar 3-point percentage, but Bullock was just a spot up 3-point shooter. Fournier can drive. He can handle the ball. He can set up plays. Like he's just way more multifaceted on offense.
Yeah, Fournier can create his own shot. Bullock could not create his own shot. It's just a different, like, nothing, no disrespect for Bullock. Fournier is an above average starter. Bullock is a role player.
Bullock was a very pleasant surprise last season.
Yes,
and you know it was great having him. But if you're like having remorse, just look at his box scores in Dallas.
Yeah, they're nothing special. I think the biggest thing that I would like to see to happen this week is I want to see the bench start contributing a little more. I want to see bigger games. I love when Toppin plays more and has big games. I'd like to see more from Toppin, and I'd like to see more from IQ this week. And Burks, those three guys, really.
Yeah, absolutely. If those guys are cooking as well, then the Knicks are going to start maintaining those 15, 20-point leads and bringing that to the end of the game.
I remember beginning of last season, Burks kind of like, I think none of us were that like, oh, we got Alex Burks. None of us were like, oh, great, we got Alex Burks. And then he had a couple games early on where he just like lit it up, like 20 points, then 20 points again, and 20 points again.
Mm-hmm.
Burks can get hot. He hasn't done that really yet this season. I want to see more from him on the second unit getting hot.
Yeah. I mean, if those guys start heating up, then the Knicks really they won't be letting up on offense the entire game, and it's going to tire teams out and really. You know, other teams have a big drop off when they put in their bench, and if those guys heat up, the Knicks don't have that drop off, and that'll be the difference.
Yeah, I actually also last night the Knicks fell apart with their starters on the floor. Like the Knicks, like the second unit, like was playing pretty well, and the stars went back in, and then the whole thing fell apart.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
But yeah, you're right. I agree with you. One of the strengths of this team is the fact that like when they go to the second unit is better than most teams' second units.
Yeah.
So what do you think the week ahead? Who do we got, Jay? We have coming up before the next show. Next week is a Sunday and a Monday, probably another Tuesday show because of so we have 4 games before next Tuesday. We have Indiana, Milwaukee, Cleveland, and Philadelphia. What do you think there, Jay?
I think it should be a 3-1 week.
Okay, Indiana, you say a win. I assume,
I'm going
right?
to be very upset if they don't beat. What was Indiana? 1-6, 2-6, like
something like that. Yeah, Milwaukee, who's been playing a little bit underwhelming so far.
They just won today by 27.
I guess they're not that underwhelming today.
28.
Cleveland, which is much improved from last year.
Yeah, that should still be a win.
And Philly, you beat them by a lot last time. You think you're going to win by a lot the second time? And
no, they're going to be mad. They're going to be looking for revenge, but it's still a winnable game. Okay.
I'm not upset if this is a 2-2 week. This should definitely not be a 1-3 week. 2-2, 3-1 would be fine. They're not going 4-0. If they do, that would be incredible, but it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Anything else for tonight?
I think we're about out of time, so that's good. Check us out, NY Knicks Podcast. I'd like to thank Chris for upping his Patreon at patreon.com/NY Knicks Podcast. We're also NY Knicks Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And
by the way, here's what's going to happen, actually.
Yep.
The Knicks are going to crush Indiana, crush Milwaukee, crush Cleveland, and then lose a squeaker to Philly. And on the next show, it'll be the saddest show we have, where the Knicks fans just want to rebuild.
Just keep the trend of losing right before we record.
Right? Yeah, and like right before everything's great, we lose right before the show, and Knicks fans always like the sky is falling.
Sounds about right.
Oh, Larry, how we can't do it if we. Yeah, it's going to be Yeah, and who is going to be our player of the week, the unexpected player of the week? This past week, the unexpected player of the week, or unexpected, the guy, Kemba was the guy who stepped it up between last show and this show.
Yeah.
Who's going to step it up? Pick a guy who's going to be stepping up between this show and next show. Who will be the surprise?
I think
surprise, but you know what I mean.
it's got to be Burks or Quickly, right? Like they've been like really, really underwhelming this season. They're really due.
Right. Maybe the week of Quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Quickly having some nights where he goes off. I can see that happening very soon. He's been very underwhelming. Maybe he's ready to start shining again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you, Brooklyn Adrian. Thank you, Nomad, for joining in the chat. If you want to join us when we go live, you can go to twitch.tv/crumpledbacon and hit that follow button. You'll get a notification when we go live. And we put all our shows on YouTube afterwards. And our YouTube channel is TITOWAJ. And yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday, hopefully talking about a 4-0 week.
Jay, actually, one question before we go. If my son currently has a RJ Barrett jersey.
Yep.
For Hanukkah, he wants another Knicks jersey.
Mm-hmm.
What player would you get him? I've already decided. I already have the answer on my end. But who would you get? Who is the next jersey? He has. Well, previously he had KP, which did not go well.
Right.
Now he has RJ Barrett. Barrett is awesome. He wants a second jersey. You obviously don't give him a second Barrett. So who do you get him?
I'd probably get him Randall, but you're going to get him Toppin.
I got him Randall.
Okay.
But I thought about Toppin. I need to see a little more from Toppin. He's going to get in my son's closet. But
yeah. All right.
Okay.
Maybe next season. He's still got a couple years on the team.
Yeah. Randall this year. Next year could be Toppin.
Charlie Ward curse isn't due to hit for another 2 years anyway.
Yeah. Well, wait, when's Barrett a free agent? I think the Knicks have to extend him after next season.
Yeah, rookie contracts are 4 years, so they could sign him to an extension next season.
Okay. RJ, I think, is going to be extended. He will break the streak.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Knox is not going to break the streak.
By the way, you know what I love? You'll end in 1 second. I love the fact that I see online, like people are complaining about things, and there's just a bunch of comments I see on Twitter and different message boards where people are like, "Oh, man, we would have won last night if Tibbs would have just put in Grimes and McBride. Knicks could have pulled it out." I'm like, yeah, I like those rookies a lot also. But I don't think the guys who've never played in the NBA are the difference between winning and losing this early in the season.
This guy has 11 minutes of NBA experience. He would have been the difference against a veteran NBA team.
I mean, it's basically the Frank stands who are like, who else should we jump on? Basically, be like, this guy who's not playing is the difference.
Yeah, exactly. Settle down, people. Go look at Frank's box scores.
Okay, I think we're out.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks again for joining, and we will be back next Tuesday. Go Knicks.
My love. Goodbye, everybody. It's all over. Goodbye. It's time to go. This is the end.